Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Welcome to Queens and Kings. Dreaming and creating fairy kingdoms. We just got the sunlight coming in here. The sun is setting over the ridge. Usually I shut the door and make it all like good lighting, but I thought, hey, this is quite nice with the natural light coming in. We just had a couple of days of beautiful weather, and now we're gonna have a few days of rain, which is kind of nice. It'd be nice to be inside. Although I've been spending a lot of my time inside recently, just studying and learning and podcasting and just being online a lot and thoroughly enjoying it, researching a lot of different topics. It's just in this world of learning. It's like just trying to take in as much information as I can about everything. I've been learning all about the royal family. That's been really interesting. Watching videos on the interviews. And then I talked about it yesterday, about really interesting dynamics with people, the way that people talk and how they convey their message and their body language. Do they have an agenda? Are they trying to manipulate the truth? It's really interesting to see the dynamic of how someone behaves under certain pressures, and if they may be lying or if they're telling the truth. How does the body move? How eye movement. Like these four guys, they've got a lot of concepts I've still got to learn, but they're looking for speech, cadence, like the speed at which you speak. If you raise your voice or you talk more quietly, there's all like tonal inclinations at the end of a word. Like they've got all these cues that they're looking for: voice, body move, hand move, gestures, where the body's positioned, and then eyes tell a huge amount of story. So seeing people's eyes and the way and how they blink. It's a very interesting topic, which I've never really spent much time into understanding. But I know from my own perspective, like if I feel uncomfortable how I behave, and you could probably see that in somebody else as well, if you understand, because you've experienced it. So you can pick up on someone if I feel uncomfortable on stage, you're going to have certain behaviors, and then you can see those behaviors in others as well. And so you can be compassionate, I guess. You can understand, and then maybe you can help them as well. It's nice with this light. Thank you, sunshine. It's such a beautiful place to be doing a podcast, I tell you. I was going to go to the beach. Usually I'm at the beach having a run right now. But I've got my weights here. So every half hour I do some weights. So I was like, that should be enough for today. Do some push-ups and lots of different exercises. Some squats. We've got some kettlebells. So they're very versatile with what you can use. But just keep the body moving, because I have been sitting a lot today. So when I started the podcast, I was like, okay, what am I going to talk about? Because I really haven't talked to many people today. Just a couple of guys. Had a bit of a chit-chat, but other than that, it's been just me and myself. So it's like, what topics have come up? through the day, well, it's really just been what I've been researching, which has been pretty amazing. Yeah, that's a pretty cool topic. I've been looking into my family tree, and I've got a tree on ancestry, and I've just been following each family line. Like, I followed my mum's line one way, and then I followed another way. Like, so her two grandfathers follow that line, and so yeah, it was cool. Like, because you can now grab onto other people's trees. So if there's someone who's done the work and it's the same person, then you just jump onto that, and so there's a little. You don't have to, it's not a lot of research. It's just checking that it's the correct data. And so yeah, got up to about 1600s. One side of like, you heard of the Huguenots? They were like Protestant, a form of Protestant Christians in France who were persecuted by the King Louis something, and there was a massacre in Paris where many of them were killed. It was sort of like this instigated Catholic Protestant war going on at the time. The Catholics were moving in, and so yeah, they moved the Protestants. Well, they massacred them, and then so one of my relatives is from the Huguenots, which was pretty cool to see that. But they left France and went to the Netherlands, and then they went to England. Yeah, so yeah, the Huguenots. I want to look more into what their religious beliefs were, because why were they such a threat to the Catholics that they had to instill a movement against them, like genocide. Yeah, it also happened with the Cathars in France. The Catholics, or the Roman Church, moved against the Cathars, and basically let's call it the Fourth Crusade, or the crusade against their own people, but over a religious belief. So yeah, that was pretty disgraceful. And I'd love to know more about, that time. Wow, what a story. What a terrible time to be there for those people. But we don't really know much about them. I don't. Most people don't know about the Cathars. I only just learned about them 3 weeks ago. So yeah, I'm learning fast, but because I really didn't know anything before. It's just like a gradual. It just takes time to read in history, and you've got to prioritize it. But it's pretty fascinating. Yeah, Game of Thrones, Earth, because the Earth series. Yeah, because it has been Game of Thrones, and that's what's the fascinating thing to see. But I don't think people know what for history to flow the way it has. Like, is it just random? Like just randomness happening? Or is there like someone trying to defeat someone else? But you don't see it. Those two people are invisible in a way. So, like, for me, this is what I've realized, is there has been this sort of, if you look the whole amount of history, it's this battle for creating heaven on earth. Like, that's the goal. Create this fairy world, fairyland, like our fairy communities. Like, to build that heaven on earth is the goal. But it's a battle. Light versus dark. And dark doesn't want that to happen, wants to keep us in a low vibration that keeps us in fear and keeps us from knowing the truth, and will use all methods available to keep us in the dark. And when you start to look through history, you see there are groups of people or civilizations that bring good and equality and freedom, and then there's other way. And it's not just like it's the leaders, it's the good and the dark in the civilization, but it's also in the group, it's in the person. Like it's this good and dark going on. This battle for light, because to have heaven on earth, you have to have the light. The darkness doesn't exist. Doesn't need to exist. Right? Yeah, so you look through history and you can see, and but what I see is that our history has been twisted for us to not see these civilizations that were good. Like, I see Genghis Khan as a good man that created the biggest kingdom on earth. And we don't know anything about him. All we know, all that's been programmed into us, is that he was a bad guy. And he always massacred people. That's it. That's the elevator pitch for Genghis Khan. You know, he was, and there's even story that he wasn't even of Asian descent, that he had red hair and blue eyes. Like, I don't know if Marco Polo said that, or like he had red hair. Like, why are we not told that truth? And I did check this up, and I investigated it, and I looked at a few sources that confirmed it. But so that's my understanding at the moment. That's my belief until I'm shown something otherwise to prove against it. From the research I did. And I encourage everyone to look that up, because it just sort of shows why. Because if we knew that there was a European guy over there that created this amazing kingdom that was for culture and artistry and just bringing light to the world, like, maybe that's who he was, but he also would come down hard. That's the thing, on people that didn't want to use the light, didn't want to bring goodness to their world. Like, they were stuck in that power, the game of power. There was an understanding of when we all come together, great things happen. So I believe like Genghis was a great man, and he had great children, and those children became great people, like that, like their children. So I basically have a twist on history. Like, whenever I see like the barbarians, this always bugs me, because the barbarians this is who Rome tells us, and maybe the story from history we've been given is this Rome story. Okay, so the tribes of the Germanics and the Franks and the Spanish, like we were all tribes, and then kingdoms formed. But we were called, like, we're barbarians. But I simply don't think that's true. And I think there's been a lot of twisting on history to make those people, like my people, like the Scandinavians, like, I don't believe they were as bad as what we've been told. because the reason why and they also were spiritual people. Like, so the barbarian doesn't exist in a spiritual, like people who are connected to their roots, to their nature. Like they're solid, and they had to be solid to be able to do what they did, which was to like take over a lot of Europe. They left, like the Scandinavians left and went all through Europe, and they had, like, you look at the Vikings that went into France and became the Normans. Like how can barbarians suddenly just transform into a cultured civilization and then in 200 years have such a huge influence on Europe? They went into England and basically took over the kingship of the whole of the island, like all of it. Yeah, they weren't barbarians at all. Like, that's been twisted in our history, because they were actually great people. They were great men and women, and they had morals, because we have remnants of that. Look at the Scandinavians and the way they're free thinking. It's coming from the culture that was before, which was the barbarians, but they're not barbarians. They were probably the most cultured there was. They come from the Scythians, the nomadic, and this is where Genghis Khan comes in. They come from that as well. They're all connected. Their culture and their traditions were similar. But we've been led to believe that the tribes were a bunch of barbarians. And you see it everywhere, and like the Merovingians is a great example. Like, after Rome fell in 450, then the Merovingians were able to unite Germany and France with very little fighting, I believe. And then they had the Frankish kings for 250 years. And I believe there was, I've said this before, but the term to be frank, like, these were the first Franks, and to be frank means to be honest. And we say frankly, like, this is a term to describe the people. Like, those kings they were called the long-haired kings. They had more than one wife, but they split their kingdoms. Like, one king had 4 sons, and he split the kingdoms, the 4 firstborn sons. I don't know if he had 4 wives. Must have. And so he gave each to the firstborn. And but they would come together. And I'm not sure, this is a question I have with kingship, is like, if you've got the 4, is it expected that the strongest will become the king? And that's how you select the best one. So you almost give them the reins and let them fight it out. And the best one would win. I guess it's called natural selection. I wonder if that's how it used to be done. But then there's upheaval, and there's death and destruction. There must be a better way to do it. Yeah. Maybe they could just play rock, paper, scissors a few times. Some sort of, games that no one gets hurt. You can have a lot of fun games. Like what was that Netflix show with the game show, where they were actually, if they did something wrong, they would die. Yeah. That type of world, that's the world we don't want. That's the world we have to fight to stop, because that's the type of world that I see us going to. Not Hunger Games. Yeah. That's the type of world I see we're going to if we don't, like, start coming together and finding our humanity again. like our hearts and our love for each other. Because at the moment, there's such a disconnect. It's really funny. I saw a video on TikTok about someone was channeling the talking about grey aliens. Oh, it was Bashar. And that the grey aliens in an alternate reality, who are us humans, but from the future, they evolved without emotion. No, they became robots, and they lost the earth, and they were living underground on the earth in a future timeline. And they were, I guess, coming back or coming to this reality to try and maybe they were warning us. Yeah, maybe that's what they're doing. Warning us. It's like, don't go down that path. You have to do everything you can to stop that path. Which is I think it's this dark energy of keeping us in the dark. It wants us to be more like robots, like more the same. Well, the energy is making us the same, like everyone's got the same house in the same suburb. They're all cookie cutters of we lose our originality in some ways. Yeah, and you see, I mean, western suburbs are still very unique. The houses are all, but maybe like see in Malaysia, near KL, they have these developments, and they're just exactly the same houses, all next to each other. See, we all start to dress alike, and we all start to become more and more the same, which I would then call like a robot. So there's this energy towards that. And that's what I would say the greys are talking about, is that if we don't find that love, like, because probably they didn't have love, definitely lost love for all things, and that's the robot. You're just a program. You're programmed to do things, and the love, there is none. You're just a robot. And so so we're in this like battle for light, which is freedom and love, or dark, which is groupthink. Yeah, group action, we all do this the same way. And you can feel it in our society already. It's like as soon as someone steps out or makes a loud noise, or there's this energy that trying to, hey, come back into the group. Like it's already happening. I would imagine people were a lot more free in the past. And we did celebrate. It wasn't all fighting and pillaging. I don't believe it was. I'm hopeful that maybe there would have been times, yes, but so I don't know what the percentage of time where it was what we believe it to be, or just all like death and destruction. Or there was the harmony in the village and the villages, and people could travel safely, and there wasn't a threat of war. Like, I'm sure there was a lot of that time as well. So yeah. Sun is setting. I've had this conversation with a few people regarding connecting with nature. Because I know all cultures in the past were way more connected with nature than we are now. I think all cultures have lost that connection, except for the indigenous who are still outliving it in the rainforests. There's some in the Andamans Islands, like south of India. But there's still those tribes that are really connected to their... But Europeans were once connected to the land. So were the Chinese. Like all races were connected. Well, all peoples were connected. Like the Aboriginals, the Australian Aboriginals are still connected, but I feel like they've lost some of their wisdom. Or maybe it's still there, but it's in very small spots. Like we had an elder speak to us, and he said that his wisdom, he's got no one to share it with, because his people are moving away from their connection with land. I guess they're getting sucked up into the Western world, which is so magnetic, right? So magnetic. And that's what we have been through, that Western world. But we were once connected with the land, and we've now been sucked through the world of materialism. We've come out the other well, for me, I've come out the other side. So nothing, like I don't have desire in the material. So just forgot what I was talking about. Don't have desire in the material. My mind dropped. Maybe I was like, is that a true statement? Is that true? Is that true? Do I not have desire in the material? That's probably not a true statement. That's probably what happened. I was like, well, hang on, back up, stop. Yeah, I guess what is it, like we live in this world. With desire, we live in this world. And it's great to experience this world. So like I desire to do things in this world. I want to explore this world. I want to live to the maximum. So yeah, I want to, because it's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool world, and so yeah, I do desire the material difference, and I'd love a beautiful woman. Like there's beauty in so much out in the world. Of course, I desire these beautiful things, and so yeah, I'm all for experiencing the world. I think that's our God-given right. That's why we're here, and like this is part of being heaven on earth. Is being in a free place to experience, to just to live life and celebrate. do a little meditation. I love to close my eyes. If I'm sitting, my legs crossed at the moment, I could just sit here, and I probably do sit here for half the day with my eyes closed, just breathing in and out. Like I just breathe deep in through the nose and like right down, deep belly breath. Like expand it. It's so amazing to expand the lungs. Just feel that energy filling you up. And then I pull my shoulders back, opening up and expanding the chest. And even pull my head back. Just stretch through the neck. And then just moving your head from side to side as it's stretched back. Just nice and gentle. I just like to give it like a little wiggle. Just from side to side while your head is back like that. It's it sends beautiful energy through that area. I think the Tao say that there's a little pump there. And if you believe, this is my theory on prana, moving energy in your body, because you use your breath. That's what we're all learning with breath work. But so you use your breath, deep breaths, but I use breath holds, where inhale and hold for as long as possible. And what you can see is your thoughts like really slow down, almost stop when you hold your breath. Like they just sort of disappear, and then you're just in this holding breath state. And the mind's fairly still. You find it also when you laugh, your mind will become still. But yes, so we use our breath holds to move. And when you're doing the breath holds, you're moving different mudra. I think it's a mudra. In the bandhas they call it. So yeah, there's three. There's the Muladhara, which is the lower one at the pelvis, your taint, you squeeze to stop your pee or to, stop your poo. And then there's one near the belly. Is that right? One near the belly. And then I think one at the neck. Yeah. Yeah, so you can hold your breath and lock those at different, and move your body around and tense different muscles. But I believe you've got this cerebral spinal fluid, and you move because it goes all the way down from the base of the spine up into the brain, and it's fluid, and that it must be some crystalline goodness. So somehow by moving it around the body, it gets energized. Maybe from the bone, I don't know, but it gets energized. And then it comes into the brain, and I think that's what sort of, you get a good squirt of that into the pineal area, and it helps with the meditation, and it gives you the joy and lights and all sorts of things. The Tao said there's a pump at the base of the spine, and there's a pump at the neck. And yeah, that's sort of, if you put your head back like that, I don't know, that slight little wobbles, feels like it feels good, like it's moving something. Yeah, give it a go. And concentrate on your third eye at the same time. Yeah, so you do all these breathing techniques, movements, like the Tibetans have all these movements where they move their arms around, but it's all moving energy. Prana is real. It's like energy, it's like, what sexual energy is. that is spiritual energy. Like sexual energy is the energy of spirit, but it's in your groin, and you have to learn to move it into the heart space, up through the body, and up into the whole body. You've got to it's almost like crystallize it. You've got to crystallize it from sexual energy into spiritual energy, which gives you the joy and bliss, and like it gives you power. And so that energy is the cerebral spinal fluid somehow. It's somehow being charged. So that it makes sense. You start thinking, what does this cerebral spinal fluid do? But it floods all through different areas of the brain. And like the Indians talk about the nadis. The nadis and you have like three main nadis, on the left of the spine, the pingala on the right, and the sushumna through the center of the spine. And then there's a smaller one that runs through the center of that. And so they're channels, and you have to unblock them. And that's what yoga's for. The movement, physical movement, and detoxing, and just cleansing, hot, cold, just do it. They have all these techniques for cleansing the body, which I believe is to cleanse the nadi, the channels which this spinal fluid moves through. And there probably is more to it, like the electricity as well. You know, you've got all the meridian points. They all play a role as well of unblocking all these and getting them all aligned. And so once you're in that pure state, then the cerebral spinal fluid can flow better, maybe, or it can, whatever's being made and put into the fluid must work better, and then it will flush around the body better, as well as all your meridians are working, flowing. So when you do these breathing energy, you've got like bigger copper cables happening. And that's what all this yoga practice is about, is that getting to that pure state where it starts to move. And then doing breath work and locking bandhas at certain times, and breathing at the right time, holding breaths, and just meditating on what is being experienced. For me, that's my meditation. And I do it with cannabis sometimes. Yeah, I go through stages. So for a couple of days, and then not for a few days, and that is good, because then you can, as the things that you experience on cannabis might be a bit deeper, and then you can do it without, and it's getting to those deeper states again without is important to do. Like, you don't want to depend on anything. Like Osho always said, if you use a tool, hello honey, little putty cat, honey, just come say hi. No, I just lost my thought. Lost my thought. 41 minutes. I got my coffee here. Sun's going down. Life is good. It really is. We live in a magical world, and I'm living in a magical little space at the moment. I couldn't be happier. It's one of the most beautiful places in the world, untouched in many ways, and still a very good spirit of people down here. Like very good big-hearted people. Some are a little stuck in their ways, but I don't think it would take much. They're just bored shitless. See, we just got to do exciting things again, and bring back the life of the community, like of the whole area. You bring the people together again. But that's all, but in a way where we become kin, not just neighbors. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. Like, I don't fucking understand why more people aren't talking about how we're not living in the right society right now. It's like we've all forgotten what is normal. Really, it had to have been programmed out of us. Like, I see that. I have seen the power of community. I've seen how healing it is for people, but I've also seen how creative it is. Like, you see musicians who just turn up, and when they all come together and they're all learning off each other and they just create this. What happens when you get like-minded people with like passions together? It's like magic happens. And if they're in an environment with love and support, and like they're supported, if these artists are supported by people who love to cook, right? They don't have to spend time cooking all the time, so they've got more time to do what they love. Like, that's one of the powers, is people have more time. Mothers have more time. Fathers have more time. Relationships, they either do really well or they fail because of that. But the strong ones will grow stronger in community, because, especially with kids, because you've got more time for each other. There's just, we evolve so much quicker when we talk with each other, with one another. Like, talking is a very powerful tool. One of the most important powerful tools for healing. And I mean, we've probably got to learn how to talk with each other. Like, we've got to learn how to communicate better. And how to, like, we need to teach people how to listen, and how to be more aware of the conversation, and because there's still people that like talk over others or talk about themselves the whole time. Like there's many lessons in the topic. There's a lot of ways to communicate. That's why it's really fun to watch this show with the four guys analysing communication. It's so complex, and we got to learn it. We got to learn how to do it, because it's so important. Because if you can't fucking communicate with your neighbour, you're in trouble, right? We're in trouble. So yeah, communication is a super important thing we need to remember. Communing with each other. Yeah. Yeah, there's many things we have to relearn. But it's all for the best. This is the thing. If you really want the survival of your community, you have to put it in for the people. They're number one. And that means putting in the work of healing them, and just for the community to work really well. If everyone's healed and everyone's high vibing, then the community will flourish. So it's in the best interest of the whole community to look after every single person and raise them higher. Like, to me, this is the solution, like, for civilization is you understand that for you to succeed, everyone has to succeed. It's like we're an organism, and if part of the organism is sick, then everything's going to get sick. Like, we are an organism. Like, nature flows in us as well. We are nature. We think we're above nature, but we are nature. And nature can, like, the laws of nature flow, and we can choose to swim against them or flow with them. And that's what we've got to remember. I think our minds think our superiority over nature causes us to forget the most fundamental rule. Like, you don't see the bees trying to change anything. They're just sort of cool doing it. But what is the natural flow of humans? That's what we have to understand. Like, what is the natural flow of a society? Like, what is our natural state? The base state? Like, we can take examples from nature and say, well, maybe there's that. Like the kings and queens, and in a hive, maybe that's our natural state. But of course they have to be divinely connected kings and queens. This is like, it comes up in my mind, it's such controlling in my mind of this, or maybe it's a fear of having the wrong ruler, having a bad king. Because that's what we're told now in our history, is all were bad kings, or the majority. And the good kings that who seemed to live well, were like arseholes, egomaniacs. Like, they're all twisted to be bad. So, yeah, with a good king and queen, you have a natural flow, freedom, the free man. Like I watched June the other day, and the Fremen of June, right? They're the free men, the Fremen, have their own culture, their own beliefs. They're very protected of themselves because they know of the dangers of the off-worlders. But they're quite advanced, they're very spiritual. But yeah, they're called the Fremen. I thought that was interesting. I love these old movies. Like Lord of the Rings has got so much sort of information in a way. Like, I do believe there is the dark and light, and we are in a battle of about the dark and light, and that's what's been happening through history. As I say, it's like, so you see it like the Eye of Mordor. Like, I feel when there's that dark presence around, it's like it's like the Eye looking in, and learning to be accepting of that was a big step, because I'm coming from a world where none of that. I never, like, religion was not even talked to me about. I was very, very pure in religion. Nothing was ever taught me at all. I was a blank slate until I was about 20, when my sister passed away, and then I was like, whoa, what's this death thing? That's my sister that just went somewhere. Where did she, like, what happened? And I was, whoa, I don't understand. I need to understand. So yeah, I started reading the Bible. Just a paragraph each night. And never really understood it, to be honest. And then when I was, that would set me on my path. Mm. Mm. Where's I need my little co-pilot here so we can keep me on track. Hey, you're talking about this? Yeah, so there is the societies that had the freemen, and I talk about the Merovingians, who our history has been twisted against, and I've talked to, there's very little information on them, for one, so that puts a flag up. Just like Genghis, not much information. But I believe that they ruled really well. And unfortunately, the only account of them is by a Catholic priest, who 200 years later, and it really is not a very nicely written account. If you look at it, if you hear some of it, you can hear the venom in it, the deliberate attack, which raises flags in me. It's like, this is biased. Yeah, we have to be aware of that. It's like, this history is like, who wrote that history? What were they trying to spin? What truth were they trying to spin? History is bunk. You got to look into it. You got to look and see the clues. And I see the clues and I see the truths. And that's what I love to do, is just to learn and delve into and start to put all the pieces together. The pieces of the puzzle. It's very, very exciting and fun. And of course, there'll be some things that I may understand now to be, in the future, to be debunked for that. But at the moment, I'm just throwing out these ideas that at the moment they are my truth. That's my deductive truth, by sifting through all the stuff I've read, determining a particular truth. But I'm open for change, because truth is on so many levels, and it goes so deep in so many ways that you can't ever know for sure if it's the truth. It's too infinite. Now, tiny little minds can't comprehend the truth. You can't handle the truth. That's hilarious. Yes, the truth. I love to find the truth. There must be so many truth. I put a TikTok video saying that my occupation is truth unraveler or truth seeker. I like that. There was a Tibetan Buddhist, enlightened master called Padmasambhava. He sounded like he was a pretty cool dude. He went into Tibet and kicked out the bad stuff. He kicked out the devils. And to me, that means he was a warrior. He went in. He had and basically called people out on their shit. He was a truth teller, and he had powers. He was a enlightened master and a warrior. It's interesting. He was a tantric Buddha, so he made love with his consorts, and he had disciples. And most of them were women, I think. Yeah, really interesting dude. Don't really hear much about him. I'm not sure why. Just another reason. Honestly, it seems like where there's no information, that's where you should look. Merovingians, Genghis Khan, Padmasan Baba. Yeah, who knows? But I'm understanding more and more. So yeah, it's fun. It's fun, very fun. And history is all where it's all at. It's all, and it's like history has left clues. There's clues everywhere, and it's up to the truth unravelers to find that truth. It's like a game. It's like a video game. We're in a video game, and because it's actually a fun thing. This is a fun thing that we need to start a movement, unraveling history and finding the truth. Because I've already found like two really interesting things that we're told. Oh, actually three interesting things we're told in history where I feel like it's incorrectly interpreted, and it's been deliberately interpreted incorrectly. Yeah, and so like I think we should start a movement where, because you've got to question everything, and it is okay. And then we're gonna get, yeah, it's why can I see these things? I don't know. It's just what I can do. So it's a talent. It's my talent. Truth unraveler. Yeah. See, and I have said that a few times. Like, if you could give one thing to a child, like what one thing could you, if you could teach this child, was their one special skill, it'd be being able to unravel truth from bullshit. To know the difference. Like that's one of the probably the most important skill to have in this life. Like if you could, whether people were telling the truth or not truth, that'd be a pretty amazing skill to be able to then move through life in a really beautiful way. You would hope. Maybe it just get you in trouble. But yeah, in this movie June, that was one of the skills of the priest women was truth sayer. They could see if someone was telling the truth or not. That's an interesting skill to have. That's like a Jedi skill. And you know, there are people that are good at it. Like you see these 4 guys on the show. They've definitely got tuned in their skills on truth saying. But possibly women have a better ability at it. It wouldn't surprise me. They got more emote. It's got more inputs. They sense more things, I think. Yeah, soothsaying. But yeah, that would be a good skill to have, is to be able to know. Maybe I'm learning how to do that. Or maybe I've learned. It's hard to tell. Because there is something like all this, these are my theories. This is the truth that I've been shown. But until someone approves it, then is it the truth? Well, it's my truth. We'll find out if it's your truth too. But hey, we need more truth sayers in the world. We all need to be speaking our truth. We all need to be speaking it. The light lovers of the world need to be speaking their truth. Because you say it differently to I say it. I say it differently to you and you and you, but each and everyone has a certain way of saying it about bringing heaven on earth. And that's what we have to talk about. Bringing heaven on earth. How are we going to do it? Let's do it. Let's talk about it. Because it's not just going to happen. Like, we actually have to have a direction, and we've got to make rules and